Today we're in Altoona, Pennsylvania, visiting the Railroaders Memorial Museum.
We're going to find out why the Nazis had Altoona targeted during the Second World War, and then we're going to explore why the PRR chose Altoona in the first place.
Let's take a look inside.
This is the first time we were ever able to take all 5 grandkids to the Railroaders Museum. Now, all of them like trains, but none of them as much as Jackson. He loves trains.
There's the train up here. Up here. Look, there's 2 awesome trains.
When we arrived, we were joined by Jackson and Patrick's cousins, Roz, Ev, and Ben, and their parents, Rick and Chris. The Railroaders Museum is huge. The inside exhibits are housed in the former Master Mechanics building that was a working part of the Pennsylvania Railroad for over a century. When you get inside, you come face to face with a life-size replica of the front section of a K4 steam locomotive.
You know, I've always wondered what's so special about a K4.
Well, the K4s were designed and tested in this building that we're standing in.
Well, that's pretty cool.
You betcha. Today, exhibits are housed on 3 floors. The open layout of the museum makes it easy to get around, and many of the exhibits are push-button operable, and some even triggered by motion sensors.
It's a business, a very big business. And if by chance you're thinking of investing some of your own money in the Pennsylvania Railroad...
Hey, look at this guy in the big office. You'd think he'd run the place or something.
Well, the PRR was a big deal. In 1882, it was the biggest corporation in the entire world. The Pennsylvania Railroad in Altoona was responsible for building 6,800 locomotives and over 16,000 passenger coaches and freight cars.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Hey, one look at Evie and he was speechless. She's standing there trying to figure out why he's sitting behind her desk. Heck, she can run a railroad. Just ask her, she'd tell you. She's 5. But why did all this happen in Altoona?
In 1849, the area that currently houses the railroad shops was nothing but farmland. It was abundant in coal, timber, water, and even iron ore. Since that farmland sat at the base of the mountains that they were trying to get over, it made sense to build repair shops there, since the trains were prone to breaking after coming off that mountain. Work started in 1851 on the mountain section of the railroad, and the crews completed the horseshoe curve and bored a tunnel right through the top of the mountain at Gallitzin, using nothing more than hand tools, hard labor, and a lot of black powder. The PRR main line from Harrisburg to Pittsburgh was completed and opened to trains in 1854.
Wait a minute. You're saying that they built an entire railroad from Pittsburgh to Harrisburg in 5 years.
That's
including
right.
Tunnels.
Including a tunnel.
Wow. Using nothing but hand tools.
Hand tools, no machinery.
That's crazy. I'll bet those boys were buff.
Oh, thanks to the Irish immigrants that worked on that job through the mountains for 3 years. That was the hardest part.
Holy cow.
Yep.
I wonder what it was like back then.
I had read that in the 1940s, as many as 50 passenger trains passed through Altoona.
Wow. 40s, like during World War II?
Yeah, that whole period in there. They're very busy.
Hey, speaking of World War II, did you hear that Hitler targeted the horseshoe curve and was going to blow it up?
I have something on that. I'll share it with you. Stick around for just a little bit more.
Okay.
What I can tell you is that Babe Ruth, the Babe, played a little baseball while he was in town.
Really?
And George Burns, the legend himself, was headliner. Played God. He was headliner at Altoona's Mishler Theater.
We'll leave a link below. Hey, is that a newsstand over there?
Oh, hey there. Hope you haven't been standing there too long. You must have just hit Altoona from Harrisburg? Is that the Pittsburgh train I just heard leaving? Sometimes I lose track. Lots going on here. And this little stand's right in the middle of it. We've got passengers going in and out of the old station. Across those mainline tracks, all that riveting and hammering and welding at the shops. And then we've got shopmen, office people, warehouse men and women coming across the 12th Street Bridge right above us. You know, the railroad's got 3 shifts going called tricks. 3 tricks. People working day and night. Guess that's why Lou says Altoona never goes to sleep.
Hey, what are all those lights?
I don't know, you find out. The kids are going the other way.
Those lights led to the museum's test lab display. The actual lab in this building probably took up an entire floor, but as a former quality control manager, I found this display to be really cool. They tested everything from entire locomotives all the way down to the tiny little light bulbs they use. They even tested the brooms that were used to sweep the floor. Hey, where'd everybody go?
Well, we found our grandkids at their favorite exhibit in the museum, the model trains. This large train display features multiple trains operating around buildings and homes that look much the same as Altoona did during the early 1900s when this place was the place to be. The kids couldn't get enough of this realistic modeled train display. It was one of the few things in the museum that wasn't life-size. Wait a second. Is that a bar? Is there a bar in this museum?
Not exactly. Kelly's bar is another talking display, which has vintage bar fixtures and a life-size video projection showing a few of the locals enjoying a nice adult beverage.
Wish I was enjoying a nice adult beverage.
I know the feeling. Now, where are those kids?
The gift shop, of course. They were running around looking at toys, trains, t-shirts, hats. Everything was train related and they were in 7th heaven. They even found a toy train that they could play with and another model train that was running on a really high track on the ceiling of the shop. It was cool. They enjoyed it.
There was a lot more to see inside, but the young ones were itching to see all the big trains and the train cars on display outside, including one thing that's extra cool.
Like what? What was that?
Well, the museum has its own railyard with a working turntable.
You're right, that was cool.
Most of the tracks are operated and still connected to the active Altoona railyard.
That's cool.
It makes it easy for the museum to receive new rolling stock for their display. The roundhouse is connected to the turntable, and that's where the museum keeps their restoration projects. But one word on that, it's only open on occasion, so call ahead if you want to know what's going on inside the roundhouse.
Of course, Jackson and company were thrilled to see real honest-to-goodness freight trains rolling down the tracks just on the other side of the museum fence. There's no substitute for a real train rolling down the track. Just ask Jack. Now there's also 2 pedestrian bridges where you can watch trains all day long if you like. One's completely enclosed while the other one is open air.
Now, if you're ready, I'm going to tell you about Hitler's plan to blow up the shops and the Horseshoe Curve.
Cool.
You ready?
I'm ready. Go for it.
Well, Hitler knew that America's railroads and other industries were some of the key reasons why Germany lost the First World War. He recruited and trained a special team of spies to destroy these targets and many others. In June of 1942, Hitler sent 8 Nazi spies on a 2-year mission to demoralize the American public by destroying important targets across the country, including the Altoona rail shops and the Horseshoe Curve.
Hey, but I didn't think Germans ever landed on American soil. You're going to tell me I'm wrong?
Yep, you might be wrong. Around June 12, 1942, U-boats delivered spies to New York while another group landed in Florida. Both groups made their way to shore using rubber rafts, and both reached major American cities within days.
So, did Hitler launch the perfect plan to win the war?
Almost. He had made just one tiny mistake.
What was that?
George Dash.
Who the heck's George Dash?
Dash was the leader of these German spies, and he secretly hated the idea and told one of his co-conspirators, Ernest Berger, that he had no intention of carrying out Hitler's plot, and the two worked together to call the FBI. Dash called the FBI on June 15th, but they initially thought this confession was a hoax. That was until Dash showed up in person at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. The FBI listened to George Dash's story and quickly arrested him and all the other spies. The group was found in possession of counterfeit ID, including Social Security cards and even draft deferment cards. They also had about $170,000 in cash and explosives. 6 of the spies were executed.
Makes sense.
Dash and Berger's actions saved them from execution, but they were later deported back to Germany, where I'm guessing they most likely got executed. Maybe?
So they didn't get executed in America.
No. Send them home.
You know, you have to wonder what America might look like today if Dash and his buddies would have succeeded.
Yeah, don't you? I mean, if you consider that the Pennsylvania Railroad moved 17.5 million military personnel between 1941 and 45, Dash expected to be remembered as an American hero. And, in a way, maybe he was.
Well, that was fun. 5 grandkids in a museum. What were we thinking? But they had a really good time.
And if you had a good time, check out this next video about the Horseshoe Curve.